Chemicals from mystic power. Srila Prabhupada. The scientists say that life began from chemicals, but the real question is, quote, where have the chemicals come from? End quote. The chemicals come from life, and this means that life has mystic powers. For example, an orange tree contains many oranges, and each orange contains chemicals, citric acid and others. So where have these chemicals come from? Obviously, they come from the life within the tree. The scientists are missing the origin of the chemicals. They have started their investigation from the chemicals, but they cannot identify the origin of the chemicals. Chemicals come from the supreme life, God. Just as the living body of a man produces many chemicals, the supreme life, the Supreme Lord, is producing all the chemicals found in the atmosphere, in the water, in humans, in animals, and in the earth. And that is called mystic power. Unless the mystic power of the Lord is accepted, there is no solution to the problem of the origin of life. Dr. Singh. The scientists will reply that they cannot believe in mystic power. Srila Prabhupada. But they must explain the origin of the chemicals. Anyone can see that an ordinary tree is producing many chemicals, but how does it produce them? Since the scientists cannot answer this, they must accept that the living force has mystic power. I cannot even explain how my fingernail is growing out of my finger. It is beyond the power of my brain. In other words, my fingernail is growing by inconceivable potency, achintya shakti. So, if achintya shakti exists in an ordinary human being, imagine how much achintya shakti God possesses. The difference between God and me is that although I have the same potencies as God, I can produce only a small quantity of chemicals, whereas He can produce enormous quantities. I can produce a little water in the form of perspiration, but God can produce the seas. Analysis of one drop of seawater gives you the qualitative analysis of the sea without any mistake. Similarly, the ordinary living being is part and parcel of God, so by analyzing the living beings, we can begin to understand God. In God, there is great mystic potency. God's mystic potency is working swiftly, exactly like an electric machine. Some machines operate by electrical energy, and they are so nicely made that all the work is done simply by pushing a button. Similarly, God said, quote, "Let there be creation," end quote, and there was creation. Considered in this way, the workings of nature are not very difficult to understand. God has such wonderful potencies that the creation, under His order alone, immediately takes place. Brahmananda Swami. Sometimes scientists don't accept God or achintya shakti. Srila Prabhupada. That is their rascaldom. God exists, and His achintya shakti also exists. Where does a bird's power to fly come from? Both you and the bird are living entities, but the bird can fly because of its achintya shakti, but you cannot. To give another example, semen is produced from blood. A man has mystic power in his body, so that because he is sexually inclined, blood is transformed into semen. How is this done unless there is some mystic power involved? There are many mystic powers in the living entities. The cows eat grass and produce milk. Everyone knows this. But can you take some grass and produce milk? Can you? Therefore, there is mystic power within the cow. As soon as the cow eats grass, she can transform it into milk. Men and women are basically the same, but as a man, you cannot eat food and produce milk, although a woman can. These are mystic powers. Dr. Singh. Scientists would say that there are different enzymes or chemicals inside different types of bodies, and that these account for the cows producing milk. Srila Prabhupada. Yes, but who produced those enzymes in that arrangement? This was done by mystic power. You cannot make these enzymes or that arrangement. You cannot produce milk from dry grass in your laboratory. Within your body, by mystic power, you can transform food into blood and tissue. But in your laboratory, without mystic power, you cannot even transform grass into milk. Therefore, you must accept the existence of mystic power.